The Trainer 1-to-1 podcast is proudly sponsored by Financial Planning Matters. We recently recorded a latest episode with the founder of Financial Planning Matters, Niall O'Connor. In the episode, we talk about a couple of the basics of what the services they provide do, ways to get in contact, and just various stories about managing your financial future. Here is the thumbnail, and you can find the link for that video in the show notes below. The following is a conversation with JJ Glynn. JJ is a current student on the UEFA Pro license and is one of the national high performance coach educators working with the FAI. Today's conversation was a great one for me personally because JJ was actually my tutor for the UEFA B license, and we talked about a wide range of topics. Some stories that I actually haven't heard before. So, for example, JJ's previous playing experience as a kid, the influence of the great Noel O'Reilly, and we go into JJ's coaching career in a little bit of detail, with notable work with the Paralympic team in the Rio 16 Paralympics. We also talk about the new developments in the coach education pathway within the FAI and what's next for Irish football. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please don't forget to leave anywhere up to a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you. JJ, welcome.
How are you, Gary?
I'm great. It is great to see you. And even for some context, when I went through my UEFA badges, JJ was my tutor. So it's honestly, it's great to sit down and to chat. I think even we were talking before earlier about when we started our Kickstart, but I always remember a couple of familiar faces, and you were always there across the progression from when I was a kid. So I just think that's obviously fun to sit down in the same room together. But have you been?
I'm good, yeah, good. Again, from my perspective, it's great to see people who have come through the pathway all the way from what probably the Kickstart.
It was Kickstart one, yeah. PDP,
PDP, and now the PDP will be more or less vacant now at the end of the year. So yeah, it's I when we were chatting last week, like I keep an eye on. I tend to think as we coaches as we players now.
Yeah,
and you sort of keep an eye on them and how are they doing and how are they progressing, and yeah, it's nice to see when they're doing well, you know. Yeah,
and even in our phone call last week, it's very rare that somebody just asks like, "How are you?" Because even in that conversation, it kind of took me back. It's like, geez, I haven't talked about like coaching teams in ages, unless it was with Gary, for example, or Willie Bowen last week was grilling me. But it was funny. It's like, geez, it's always nice, like when you go back to like an old mentor, that it's always just like the normal conversations, like how are you, how have you been and stuff. And I just thought that was very nice. But I think, well, the outline for the conversation for today is there's just so many things to talk about, because like when you're looking at like the FAI coach education and you're looking at these like mentors at the stage, like you're just looking at like years of vast experience, which is away from like the FAI badge, and it's more so around their own personal experiences. So take us back to where your love for football started, even as a kid. Like, what was football to you and how has it progressed over the years?
Yeah, well, look, I know exactly why I'm sitting here today, and I know who's responsible for that. I signed for Belvedere as an 8-year-old, and myself and Martin Russell, both of us were living in Finglas at the time.
Nice.
And there was a sort of a summer 7-a-side competition called the RVG. They were 3 states, and we were playing in them, and unbeknown to us, Vincent Butler was out there. He's Mr. Belvedere. But obviously they were looking for players, and I'm presuming left-footed players, because both myself and Martin are left-footed. And yeah, we were asked to go in and sort of, I don't even know if it was a trial, but anyway, both of us signed. And I spent all my schoolboy football with Belvedere. I never played for anybody else. Played from 8 to 18. And as I say, the reason why I'm here, 2 people, Noel O'Reilly, which everybody knows, but Eddie Foy, who was the 2 of them done it together. Eddie's probably very unassuming. He's a school teacher from Artane, teacher in Brunswick Street School in the inner city, and between the 2 of them, I have to say I probably got the best football education that I could ever get, and it's because of the way that I was treated by them is the reason why I fell in love with football. You know, Noel, in terms of football knowledge, and again, everybody knows that because the success that he had with Brian, at international level at Pats, and ultimately with Brian at the senior international team. Eddie's still at Belvedere. You know, he's in his 70s, and he has a grandson there now, and he still gives his time to Belvedere. And as I say, we were quite a successful team, but that's not what any of us remember. It was, you know, we used to do we thought it was a holiday. You know, what we didn't realise, it was a pre-season. We'd go with the Butlins for 5 days.
My God. Yeah.
You know, we thought it was a holiday, but it was our pre-season. Like, you know, Noel and Eddie would always make sure to, at Christmas time, I couldn't even tell you, but it was a house up in Gavin, and we'd go there every Christmas for a couple of days. Noel would have the guitar.
Yeah.
At under 15, we'd 4 players in the under 15 international team that played a tournament in Montague in France. And they organised the trip, and we all went.
Oh, wow.
And seriously, that's, you know, when you think about people, and I wouldn't mind, but Noel had no children of his own. Eddie has 2 girls. So what they were doing for other people, it just goes to show you the extent of the people that they were, like. And that's, ultimately, I didn't realise, you don't realise it at the time when you're playing.
Of course.
But the minute I became a father, and the minute my eldest boy, Cormac, decided that he wanted to play football, and I brought him down, then you start to think, oh, hang on here now. You know, there's right ways and there's wrong ways, and I just fed off the experience that I had. I always loved the game. I wanted to be a footballer. I didn't become a footballer. I finished that. Belvedere, I spent 3 years with Shelbourne in the reserve league. There was no underage. It was just first team reserves. Spent 3 years floating around. Didn't happen for whatever reason. And I was a plasterer by trade. And I worked for 25 years as a plasterer. And I got my dream job at 40 years of age.
Wow.
Yeah. 2008, May 19, 2008.
The date.
Started in the FAI. Yeah. So if there's ever an example of don't give up on your dreams, there's one for you.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Nearly emotional. Like, I can really feel the I can feel the authenticity behind your words, especially around Noel, like those sorts of bigger characters. If I'm not mistaken, like, obviously Belvedere is such a prestigious club, and Morgan played for Belvedere for a few years as well, and you kind of get a feel for the place, but like, it seems to me like the football didn't even matter now looking back. It's all about like how these people made you feel.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Noel, in football terms, was demanding.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
And come game day. But we'd coaches coming. I can remember a coach for nearly 4 months. He had come over from Israel, and he was astounded at the success that we were having, like. And other coaches used to come and watch us training, and I think in their head they thought it would be militant. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I can tell you about every session that we did, the fun element of it, it was just unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? Now, even though he was getting what he wanted out of us, he was very diligent around making sure that we got what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm listening to people now talking about, you know, fun games and modern day fullbacks. So no, I was a left back. We were playing out from the back from 12 years of age, like.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we done, like. So times I can't get my head around, you know, when you hear people talk about modern day fullbacks or this modern day players are playing out in the back. Gary Matthews played a goal for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we always played out in the back, but that was down to Noel and his foresight in terms of his football knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said, it's the other stuff, the sing song. So if we were going to Cavan, we'd all have to have a song.
Yeah.
We all had to have a song.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And now I love a sing song.
Yeah.
I love it. We were up in Monaghan at the weekend doing a C licence for the Sean McCaffrey Foundation.
Yeah. So
And Tom O'Connor was with us and Ross Kenny, and Tom loves the song as well.
yeah.
It was his birthday. Over there. So, you know, we went to this pub, me and Tom, because we're, you know, a few years over 40. It was a bit too noisy, so we went back to the hotel and we had a little sing song. But that's all down to Noel, like,
Mm-hmm.
and Eddie. you know, that experience, like, it's priceless. Priceless, yeah.
Do you think that's a big reason why you went into coaching then? Just the way they kind of coach you made you feel you kind of wanted to maybe give that to others?
Again, initially, you know, I hadn't got a plan to go coaching. Like, that wasn't a plan. My eldest boy, Cormac, at the time, we'd moved to Ratoath in 2000. And he had started playing for Marino Boys because that's where we were living. And then we moved out, and of course, you know, we wanted to play. And I found out that there was Ratoath Harps. So down we went, 7-a-side all-weather pitch. And there was a guy there, Dermot White. And there must have been 40 kids, you know, 40 kids. But he was there on his own. So before you know it, you're down there
you're
on
in
the
there
pitch and you're doing it. and then, as I said, you know, some of the things that, you know, and look, it's nobody's fault, like, but if somebody hasn't, that's the importance of education or coach education. You know, when you need to have a structure on it, and it's then that I started to say, okay, hang on for a minute, what did we do, or what did I do as a player, and what did Noel do to make us the players that we were, and the fun element. So I started thinking about that, and then I contacted Noel, and he says, start doing your coaching modules. So similar, we done my Kickstart one, and so on and so on and so on, all the way up. And as I say, at the minute, I'm in the middle of the pro license, like, so. I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, I owe that to Noel and Eddie. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really cool backstory, and it's funny, like, out of all the hundreds and nearly thousands of coaches that come through the coach education pathway, they all have a story. Like, they all have, like, that story of how I started, and it's always fun and cool to hear it from, you know, the words of the people that are actually giving the education now. This is one question that I had in the brief that I thought was very interesting, just from hearing you speak all the time on the various different education courses. But if you look at yourself over the last couple of decades working with various different teams, is there any belief that you held at the start which, like, drastically changed as the years went on?
Yeah. When I started coaching, I was under the illusion, and I say illusion, that it was all about your knowledge of the game. You know, you had to get your knowledge. So that's why I got stuck into doing me coaching badges and sort of referencing. As I said, I was lucky enough to play in a good football team, and even the Shells team that I played in, we won the Blackthorn trophy, which was the league. That was the league. So it finished with I think we beat Bray 3-0 or something in the final of that league. So my interpretation of being a good coach was based around knowledge. You had to have knowledge of the game. Now completely different. It's about making connections with people, you know, and it's true. John Morling had a great phrase that you need to know Johnny to coach Johnny, but he's right. You know what I mean? You'll get the best out of people if you connect with people, and that's probably my biggest learning, I'd say, over the 23, 24 years now that I'm coaching. Is, and I would have struggled, because even in my work, you know, I worked for myself, so I was a plasterer. You go into a house, you'd have your assistant with you, but you're on your own, like, so you're not mixing. Do you know what I mean? I'd say I'm sort of quiet. You know, I'd be the type that if people drum up a conversation with me, I'll have it, but I wouldn't instigate a conversation type of thing. So that was something that I had to work at, and especially when I got the bug. You know, when I got the job in the FAI and I was going, right, you know, this is what I need to do now, and this is what I need to get better at. And then the opportunity in coach education, like, I mean, I in January, Barry Ferguson, who's now the director of football at the DDSL, asked me would I go in and do a workshop, and then he had this idea about getting the under 17, under 18 players playing for all different range of teams in the DDSL, to get them their PDP1, like, so that they could work in summer camps or whatever. And we done that just after Christmas, first or second Saturday after Christmas. Loved it. Do you know what I mean? I still get a kick out of doing it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
PDP one. You know, I love my job now, and I love the level that I'm working at. But I still love doing the PDP stuff or little workshops here and there.
Mhm.
But back to your question, yes, absolutely. Me mindset has changed. Knowledge, like I'm still learning. Like again, that C license, there was 1 or 2 little sessions, and you're going, oh, I like the way he did that, and never thought that little idea, and you'll use that in your training. So the knowledge thing is something that you're never done with,
Mhm.
you know. And I said it to the coaches at the weekend and say it all the time. You will be a more knowledgeable coach in 6 months' time than you are now, and so on in 12 months, and so on and so on. As long as you're invested in what you're doing, you'll always pick up knowledge around the game. But you can have all the knowledge in the world, if you don't know how to speak to people, like you're in trouble, really. So yeah, connection now over knowledge. Knowledge is something that you're never done with.
Yeah, oh, big time agree with that. I find football, obviously we say to kids a lot though, like, you know, the chance of being a pro is just so limited. So if you're playing football, you should use it as a vehicle for learning and development overall. Like, for example, if you got your dream job at 40, there's nothing to say that a child that's listening to this or anybody else wouldn't get that opportunity as well at an older stage. And I think if you're just open to those sorts of experiences, and I know a guy that we know very well, Niall, would always say like your net worth is your network in that sense, for just various different opportunities and various different learnings and things like that. So, you know, I would definitely double down on that aspect too. In terms of the coaching aspect, is there anything in terms of the knowledge now that you would value over everything else? So what I mean by that is it, for example, where there's like a first principle of play where this is like the be all and end all, or is it just way more flexible now versus what it was a few years ago?
It's all about players, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and again, if we've from the B license that you would have did or done to the B license that we'll roll out now this year, it's completely different. Like we're stripping it back.
Yeah.
And the focus now is on developing the individual within the team. Because, you know, we noticed looking at games that under 12, under 13, under 14 games that tactically teams were set up brilliantly, you know, to win the ball. And then they'd win the ball and they'd lose it again within 10 seconds. So, you know, how does that happen? Like, and that was being, there was a focus on the tactical element over the technical element. At the end of the day, like, you watch any game of football, like, you know, there's 1v1s happening all over the pitch, like, so you've got to be able to play the game, like, whether it be in a 1v1 situation in your unit or the game. So does it, obviously the football player pathway has been launched, and as part of that we've been looking at, okay, so what do we need to focus on now in this country? And, you know, Wes Houlihan was a great example of a creative player, wasn't he?
No doubt.
When he got on the ball, everybody, you know, let's see what he's going to do. But we need 20 or 30 Wes Houlihans. You know, we've Evan Ferguson now, who's doing brilliantly, like, but he's 19 years of age. You know, and I think at the minute there's too much weight being put on his shoulders.
Yeah, big time.
Not at Brighton, but from an international perspective, I think there's too much weight on his shoulders. He's 19 years of age, but we need 10 Evan Fergusons. Do you know what I mean? And they won't all make a career in England, but I'm convinced we'll have a full-time industry in this country in the next 5 to 10 years. If we get the backing from the government that we're looking for, I think the talent is there.
No doubt.
And that's not only from a playing perspective, from a coaching perspective. What we need is the infrastructure. The desire is there. You know, we're the biggest participation sport in the country, like. So that speaks for itself. You know, so if the talent is there and the desire is there, just give us the backing, give us the infrastructure, give us the money to do what we need to do. We don't need to build 60, 70,000 seater stadiums. You know, if you look at Norway, their leagues run perfectly with 10 and 12,000 seater stadiums. i.e. Tala is a classic example of it now. You know, we've a Tala in every League of Ireland ground around the country, or every club has a ground similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. That's all we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we're looking for.
Yeah. Talent's a ground you're happy to walk into, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Internationally, or even just with a Rovers game, like.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a question? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say on trying to develop that kind of player, because again, we get kind of a lot of coaches watching the podcast. It's something I've been more conscious of recently, because when you're a young coach and you want your team to play a certain way, it can be a lot about moving the ball and don't stay on it too long and all these kind of buzzwords. What's like the biggest advice you'd give to a coach on developing them kind of more creative players?
Again, and I was that soldier. As coaches, we tend to look at players, and the first thing we notice is what they can't do.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. 100%.
Instead of looking and saying, okay, so what's he good at? What's he good at? So if there's a player playing for UCD at the minute, and we've all been involved in UCD, so we can reference that. He's there for a reason. He's talent, whether it's his physical attributes, whether it's his technical attributes, his mindset, So what we should be trying to do is, okay, let's see what he's good at, okay, and enhance that. And then in the areas that he needs to improve in, well, let's help him. Let's put a plan in place around developing, and especially with the late developers now. I think they're spending millions in England at the minute because on the maturation, the maturation of players, and they were releasing players, because physically they weren't at the level that they needed to be at 16, 17, 18. But I think the stats are telling you now that once they get to 21, it levels itself out. But yet they were how many? We've all heard the stories, haven't we? We've all
No doubt
about this club released that player because of this, that, and the other. So, as I say, from our perspective now, okay, instead of saying, "Oh well, he's not 6 foot," so okay, well, what has he got? That's good. And if it's a physical aspect, okay, we know eventually that he'll catch up on that. That'll happen naturally. There's a lot of roles now. So clubs, at UCD, you have fitness coaches, you have analysis. So there's all the tools are there to help the players. But I think from a coaching perspective and on the pitch, that's probably where there needs to be a bit more focus now with the coaches.
Do you find with that then, because you've obviously getting more experience now with maybe the way different countries do things, do you find it's a bit of an Irish thing where it's what someone can't do versus not what somebody is capable of? Have you ever, or do you think it's just a coaching thing?
And again, through working in the association and being privy now as a coach developer to going and these UEFA study visits. So again, I thought I was speaking to you earlier. I'm heading to Switzerland tomorrow to UEFA headquarters, and Croatia will be there, and Israel will be there, in Northern Ireland. And without a shadow of a doubt, there's going to be things that we pick up there that we will, as a coach education department, will say, okay, can we implement that into ours? Croatia is a great example.
100%.
Really excited. Because they're the classic example. Similar population.
Very.
Okay, they're not competing with GAA or rugby, but still, so what can we learn from them? And without sort of disowning our own DNA, because there was a time when a lot of the English clubs, this was the first place they looked, because there was something about the Irish players, but it generally tended to be around mindset, didn't it, and attitude. That's what we're good at. We're brilliant at it. We're brilliant at getting the ball and working hard to get the ball.
Yeah.
But then what happens when we get the ball?
Big time. I was in Sheffield United in 2018 and their head of academy came over to us. I was with Stella Maris at the time, and he goes, Gary and Noel Kelly at the time, because we used to bring Irish teams over to kick the shit out of us, and now we're bringing them over because they're starting to play more. And that's exactly what it was.
There you go.
Just they were bringing more, they were looking for like battles, because he said like in the category 1, category 2 space, they all play very pretty football, and they said like their biggest problem or their biggest headache was when they got to reserve football or 23s, that it was a different sport. Like there was nobody that was there to compete. Whereas now they're seeing a shift in Irish culture. So it'll be funny if we can merge the two of them together again, which would be an interesting development.
And I think it is happening.
Yeah.
You know, the product in this country now speaks for itself. I think I'm right in saying every Dublin derby is sold out.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Every one last year, and I think again this year. So that tells you that people are going to see the games. Now, if the product wasn't good, they wouldn't be going to the games. So we're delivering a good product. Like, we have a lot of good coaches, a lot of talented coaches, and we have a lot of talented players playing in the league here. We just need the infrastructure to get us to where we need to get. And let's see what happens from there. Like,
Yeah.
I think people are realising now that because of the Brexit rule, obviously you're getting to see a potential Irish star like
Early.
at the beginning of their career, essentially, like the lads who've obviously played here and who've made the moves and they go to 18. So it's interesting, yeah, because like that they're not going for the stadiums or for that side of the match day experience. It's for essentially what's happening on the pitch. That is the selling point at the minute, you know.
yeah, absolutely. You know, and as I say, it's a good product. It's a good product. A lot of good games.
Back to you, JJ, specifically, like one standout, and it's funny when you go back to like referencing your Belvedere career when you were playing as a kid, and you speak a lot about obviously the great coaching, but the stories. But I remember on my B license, the main thing that really stood out for me was a presentation speech you gave about your experience working with the Paralympic team, and your various different emotional and successful periods with that team. It'd be great if you could share your experience with that for a wider audience, because to me personally, that had a huge effect on me and my view of coaching overall.
I can honestly say that my biggest learning experience as a coach was the 5 years I spent with the Paralympic football team. And I took that role in November 2011. Obviously, I'd been working in the FAI since 2008. I was part of the first pilot program of what is now the Emerging Talent Program, but I wasn't working for the association. And then I got the job. I'd assisted. We used to send an Irish B squad down to the Galway Cup every year, and I was part of that for 3 years. And then I went for the under-15s job at the time, and some of the feedback that I got was that I didn't have enough international experience. So that role came up, and I had my A licence and all at this stage. Like, so, you know, as far as I was concerned, you're working with, you know, I was lucky enough in the AUL centre. You had Jack Bourne, you had Robbie Brady, you have Jeff Hendricks. You know, there was a lot of players that came through the Emerging Talent Program that have had amazing careers. Like.
Absolutely.
So, you know, you have your A licence, you're working full time with the FAI. You think I wouldn't say know it all, but you know, you're confident. And then I went to work with the Paralympic players. As I said, this goes back to, again, changing your mindset around how you coach, not what you coach. And I'd say, and I can honestly say this, that three of the most talented people that I've ever worked with were Paralympians, and for different reasons. Luke Evans is one. He's the best specimen of an athlete that I've ever seen. His dedication to looking after his body so he could play football, knowing that one side of his body doesn't work. Because I asked him one day, I said, Luke, explain, like, you know, the cerebral palsy, like. He says, JJ, it's like everything's there, but the wording is broke.
Right.
Now, he's a right-footed player, and he's unusual in Paralympic football, like, because most people are born with cerebral palsy, or it happens during birth, and the only other way you can develop cerebral palsy or get cerebral palsy is through acquired brain injury, so accidents and stuff like that. So it tends to affect people on the right side more so than the left side,
Okay.
whereas his was affected on his left side.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the squad of 18, I think we had something like 12 left footers.
Yeah,
That's
that's
unheard of.
it very much. I never even knew that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
12 left footers. You spend all your life looking at left footers.
Yeah.
Like 12 in the Paralympic team.
Yeah.
But Luke was one, and his attitude towards his craft, you know, he was doing pull-ups. Like, you know, take it into account
Mm-hmm.
what his disability is.
Mm.
He was like the poster boy for the Rio 2016 Olympics. Like, he was Paralympics Ireland had him on because but his attitude, talk about professional and looking after your body and making sure you rest and making sure you hydrate and making sure your nutrition and your food.
Mm-hmm.
He's the most professional athlete I've ever worked with in terms of that. He's an absolute credit to himself. And the other two, one is Gary Messett,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is a guy called Dylan Sheridan from Ballyfermot. And Dylan, I'd say, he's still playing, like, because he's young enough. Dylan's always the top goal scorer in all the competitions. Now, there's a major competition every year with the cerebral palsy team, like,
Mm-hmm.
and he's always the top goal scorer. And again, so they're both of those are left footers, like, and Gary and Dylan, when you see them dribbling with a ball, like, they're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, taking into account that the right side of their body doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, I can't fathom it. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the balance, like, I mean, you need balance
No doubt.
to go past people, and both of them, like, it's like poetry in motion, watching both of them go past people and score goals, and they're just amazing, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So those three are great examples. But what comes with cerebral palsy a lot of the time is a learning difficulty. So a lot of the players, their ability to take on the information differs
Mm-hmm.
hugely, and that's where I got my biggest education.
Mm-hmm.
So Gary Messett on the pitch, no problem. Gary, this is what we need to do. Excellent. Dylan, similar. But then those other players where you'd literally have to sit down in a one-to-one situation, maybe with a small tactics board. Other people, show them clips. Just show them a clip and they get it. Do you know,
Mm-hmm.
there was lots of ways that I had to learn on how to communicate with these guys. That was my biggest learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That was my biggest takeaway from that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we had fair bit of success. The reason I got the job initially, they didn't qualify for London. They didn't get there. They didn't make it. Like, so that was a big blow. So obviously, try and get them to Rio. So every year, I think 2013, we had the Intercontinentals semi-final. We got to the semi-final. Next year, European Championships semi-final. And then 2015 World Cup, and only the top 8 countries
Wow. Jesus.
go to Rio.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were 6th place in that one, so that got us. That was the big one that got us to Rio. And then, as I said, and I know I do a presentation on it, but I think the presentation was around burnout, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But I describe Rio as the best and the worst experience in my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you think about the 4 years working with those players to get them to the third biggest competition on the planet.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
the opening ceremony, stadium, 90,000 people, broadcast worldwide. The lads, the 3 games live on RTE television. What an experience for them! Like,
Mm-hmm.
what an experience. But then the burnout on the back of it. And again, I knew it was coming because we had prepped for it, and I was part of a programme at Fairness Sport Ireland, organised it once we qualified for all Olympic and Paralympic coaches to sort of prepare them for the year ahead, the games itself, and then what would happen after the games. And as I said, I suffered from burnout after the games, but you were able to rationalise it because you knew what was coming. We prepped for it, but it was only through the doing the work for that I realised that it had happened previously.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, it was right in the middle of when I was doing my B licence and my A licence,
Mm-hmm.
because you just get invested in something, you get caught up in it, and then stuff starts happening that you just go, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? You know,
What were the real lows with Rio then?
not winning.
Yeah.
Not winning. And again, so Barry Ferguson, Evan's dad, we were there. Like, he looked after all the logistics end of things. He was the team manager, and I was the head coach. Like, and we came home, and you know, we had all the reasons to put into context why we didn't win. Out of the 8 countries there, we were the only team that weren't full time. Like,
Wow.
Well, right.
Okay. Jesus.
okay, so there's full time leagues in Ukraine, in Russia, in Iran, in Brazil. So they're 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
Team GB, so they're Team England until they qualify for the Paralympics, and then they can take players from Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, so they become Team GB, and they're a force to be reckoned with.
No doubt.
And then you have Argentina, America, and ourselves, and we were the only part-time team. We trained once a week, lads getting trains up and getting lifts up from all parts of the country, like, just to train, like. So, you know, and we were in the group of death. So we were in with Brazil, Ukraine, and GB.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
Tough.
you want to win the games, and you convince yourself that you have a chance of winning the games, you know,
Yeah.
and you don't, and you're disappointed. More so for them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, more so for them. But I won't tell you a lie, when I come back from Rio, like, I lost my confidence a bit.
Yeah.
You know, I lost my confidence a bit. It took me a while to get my confidence back,
Mm-hmm.
because you invest so much in it. Do you know what I mean? But then, as you say, when you sit down, you rationalise it and put it into context. You say, okay, do you know what? There's a reason why we didn't win the games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even that expectation that people put on themselves as well, so big. On the burnout side, that's very interesting with Sport Ireland. So they are nearly anticipating like a post big event, not, well, maybe burnout in some cases, but definitely like the post, like, yeah, I would say post management of the person is definitely something that they felt was necessary. Could you explain a little bit, even to people that don't know? We've talked about this with James Clappy before, but you know, what was burnout to you as a personal experience? What did that feel like day to day, mentally, physically, etc.?
Okay, so again, in the module that we covered on the course, they said that it can manifest itself in different ways. It may manifest itself in the physical and then psychological. I probably got a bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
We came home, we were away for a month. Obviously, we had a build up, great experience, brilliant. You come home, you're a little bit deflated. And then I'd say I was home about 3 weeks, and I got what felt like was the worst flu ever. And I had it for about 3 weeks.
Jesus.
Yeah.
But I was okay with that, because I was going, oh, fine, this is it. This is it. I'm okay, you know. I was told this was coming, brilliant. What I wasn't ready for was the psychological bit. Again, the losing the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ready for that one. That knocked the stuff down me. And I tell you, I can honestly say that it was September, October, November, December. It was January before I started to say, okay, let's get back on the horse here now. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I still do my job, like, but you just, no interest, lost your confidence. Like, I was nearly afraid to go onto a pitch to coach,
Mm-hmm.
because I started saying, I can't do this. Like, I'm not good enough to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's how it manifested itself with me. Like,
Yeah, two completely different experiences as well, isn't it? Like the physical and psychological, completely not unexpected, obviously, with your readings and stuff, but like anything that's psychological is just tormenting, isn't it? Like I've had it before, obviously, with just it's like an underlayer feeling that you can't knock, and it can last for months, and you've no idea. Like, you just wake up some days like, fuck, like I'm just a different person now. Like,
Yeah, and like I'd no reason to say that I wasn't. I'm not saying I'm not the best coach out there, but you know, my experience leading up to that would have said, you know, you're okay. But I swear to God, if somebody had asked me, and if a couple of people did, I just turned them down point blank. I said, I can't go onto the pitch here. I'll probably have a meltdown here, or I won't know what I'm doing. Like, and so I didn't do it. It was January 2017 before I started getting back out onto the pitch.
Well,
Yeah.
what was the turning point to get back? Was there one moment, or was it kind of just gradual? You kind of got
The
yourself.
National League.
really?
The National League, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an opportunity. I think the 15th National League was starting that year, and it was going to be a short season.
Yeah.
So I done that at Bohemians, and then UCD came along. I can honestly say best experience I've ever had. For me, UCD is a model in terms of, and I seen one of your questions in terms of, you were saying like if I had a model that would look, you know, that you could base my idea of what football should look like, I would say UCD. The 4 years I had there, amazing experience. You know, Collie O'Neill was there for 2, and then Andy Moyle was there, and then Dermot obviously is the director of football. Like, but it's an amazing place. The whole environment, like when you're there, it just it fits. It fits with me. It fits with my values. It fits with how I like the game to be played, how I like players to be developed. There's no, you have to win the under 14 league, or you have to win the under 15 league, or the under 17, so on. You know your remit going in there. Can you develop good players? I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
100%. No, it is. It's like that, yeah. Because Gary invited me down to watch the first team last. Was it Friday?
Was
it Friday?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Well, he invited me in the sense, not like a special guest. I mean, like as a friend.
Yeah.
But there's one thing.
I was on the gate, not letting people in. There's spots for Gary.
You're hilarious, man. There's always one thing I remember coaching UCD. I used to love going into the campus, and there was people running. It's just this culture of, I wouldn't say winners, I would say developers. People just want to get better. Like, and then before that, like, I done a run as well, and it's just people in all club gear. So they're all like the hockey players, the football players, whatever. They're all just in kit going around, and then even like I've obviously been there for a few years, but like you're sitting in the stands, you're talking with like the 15s coaches, the 14s, like just like it's just like a normal community. Like I had never experienced that before at a club, and I haven't been there for years. Like. But yeah, it's funny, like that question, like what is like the ideal way you'd like to run something. But I think there's a bit of a shift towards that education side now, isn't it? Like I've seen obviously Rovers open up their own TY program, for example. I've seen, isn't it Bowes or Shells have partnered with TUD as well. Shells, like they're trying to layer that aspect. And we had Paul Corey on, the ex-Sheffield Wednesday player, and he was saying, because he came from private school, and he was saying one of the lowest hanging fruits that he thinks that we could do is partner with schools at secondary level because of the facility aspect. So do you think like the connection really is between club and school as a really good means? Yeah.
It's the best way from an association perspective. It's the best way to make that connection is through the clubs. And it's trying to get buy-in from the clubs to understand the value there, because at the end of the day, if the clubs can make those connections with the schools, it can result in bigger gates, you know. But then before that happens, it requires effort, and it probably requires finances, and that's what the clubs don't have, and it comes back to what we need to make a success of our industry in this country. Like, we just need a financial backing.
Yeah, 100%. And with that mold of like the ideal scenario in terms of a model, like there's all these different cogs in the wheels, but you know, how would you like in the best case scenario in the National League, like to structure your backroom staff resource dependent, of course. Like, where do you see the importance of like analysis, like physiotherapy, strength and conditioning coaches? Where do these guys play a part in football today?
Every one of them play a part.
Yeah.
Even at 14s. Yeah. Yeah. You know, again, through me role now as a coach developer, and you're going and you're looking at other countries and you're seeing what they're doing and how young they started. And again, I think just before Christmas I was in Belgium. Now it was in relation to women's football and the female game, but they have a link with a college, and they've 60 girls between the ages of 15 and 18 that go to school but train every day, and it's linked to the Belgium FA. Like that can be, so Rovers have done it in terms of Ashfield, haven't they?
Yeah, Ashfield College. Yeah.
They've made that connection there. So we definitely need more of that. But as I say, clubs are struggling. Well, I wouldn't say struggling, but you know, their finances are geared towards paying the players. You know, if we want good players in the league, and we do, you know, you have to pay them. So I think that's where the focus for a lot of clubs is. Whereas if they get the backing from the government to employ, like what the GEA do, like, you know, what I was a development officer in South Dublin, like before I went to the coach education full time, and the GEA have development officers that just deal with one club, like.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's
I never knew that.
fantastic. Like, one club, like, you know, that's your remit. Like I looked after Temple Oak, Terranure, Rolandstown, Knockloyan. Like it's a huge area.
There's 10 clubs, even just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Areas,
And how many skills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so you're spinning plates.
Yeah.
You know, you're spinning plates.
Too many open threads. Yeah, it's interesting. And even back to your point when you were saying there about connecting with players, it's so difficult for one manager to connect with 18 players with 18 different problems, things that they are good at, things that they're bad at. And I think like the ideal scenario for me is with staff is obviously like they have their expertise, let's say if it's strength and conditioning analysis, etc. But like a non-negotiable surely is having to connect and deal with people. Has to be. Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to the under-15s had a development tournament there earlier in middle of February. So I spent a week down in Wexford with Jason and the under-15s, and James Claffey is doing a bit of work with them as well, you know, from a psychological point of view. And all the cogs in the wheel there, you know. So James does his bit in terms of, you know, psychology, brilliant. But he's also there assisting with sessions and the same with myself, like, you know, you're taking gear out, you're putting gear in. Jason might say to you, okay, boom, you know, we had the team meeting. JJ, go and speak to Gary in a one-to-one there and just explain to him exactly what we're talking about in terms of the principles. So the importance of the staff, like, you need a fitness coach without a shadow of a doubt. You need your physiotherapy. The analysis is huge now because of the generation of players that we're dealing with now.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You know, they expect that. They're savvy with it. It's us that struggle with it. I don't mind saying that. I've got better at it, you know, but and they expect to be coached. They expect feedback. You know, they expect to be involved in the process, and rightly so, because if they're involved in the process, you're more likely to get buy-in from them. So it's important that we engage with them and include them in that. You know, and then the nutrition and, you know, all the facets that are required for you to play the game at the highest level. You know, whether that be National League or international, or even Leinster Senior League. You know what? I have to say the football player pathway now is it's a plan for all football.
Yeah,
whether
agreed.
that be from grassroots, National League, international football, it's a plan to try and cater for everybody. You said it earlier. Not everybody's going to make a living out of playing football. Okay, but can we make the experience of every boy, girl, woman, man, that once they decide to play football, that it can be the best experience. And as we said, 96%, the stats will tell you, 96% they play it as a social outlet. So we need to look after them, because the 4%, once we get this infrastructure in place, that'll look after itself. As we said, we've already said it, the talent is there. You know, we have the people that can do the jobs. We just need the infrastructure. But let's look after the 96% as much as we look after the others, you know?
Yeah.
It's important.
No, I agree with you. It's a different sport from when I was playing. It's a different sport when I started coaching. It's a different sport today in Ireland. Honestly, it is. And it's only getting better. And we've got our finger on the pulse of, you know, the grassroots all the way to what's going on in the National League and then in the Premier League as well. So it's great that, you know, we have seen a positive trend overall, which is superb. And to be fair as well, coach education has taken that step as well. Like when I done my B, I was very happy, obviously, to have a huddle account, be able to clip things, and like I wouldn't say, I suppose you were required to have an account and stuff, but you know, those little changes kind of step people out of the comfort zone and progress us to the next level, which is great. And I think you touched a little bit earlier as well about there's definitely going to be a shift now on like a player-centric focus versus a full tactical experience, especially if I'm not mistaken in the UEFA badges. But does that go all the way down to PDP 1 as well, or obviously PDP 1 could be even discontinued now if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, come September, we're hoping to launch it. So, you know, so the PDP 1 was geared towards a 6 to 9-year-old player, and it was very lineal and structured, and whereas now it'll be sort of everything being collated. So and rather than saying, okay, this is what you have to do at this age group and this is what you have to do here, the football player pathway in terms of education is, okay, there's parent coaches and they'll only ever be parent coaches. So let's give them what they need to be able to look after their team. And then for the coaches who are looking to progress, whether that be Leinster Senior League, DDSL, whether that be into the National League, give them what they need as well. Like, so it's trying to provide everything that you need. As I say, whether you're just playing in the 5-side leagues in UCD again, it's huge.
Massive,
isn't it?
Oh yeah, massive.
Do you know what I mean? And that's just a social outlet. That's for the people playing who are there studying in the college, and it's huge. You know, and that's all they want to do. Like, so brilliant. So let's give them the best experience that we can.
Yeah, 100%.
From a coach education pathway, then over your years as an educator, what is kind of one trait you like to see in a young coach and we'll take it as a coach who's trying to strive to let's say go to a higher level of coaching in the game, what you've noticed?
The biggest, I hope you don't mind,
I know
I'm
exactly
going
what
to
you're
use
going
you as an example.
I remember it.
Okay, I'm going to use you as an example. When somebody engages in what they're doing, okay, they'll always have a chance of getting to where they need to get to. When they're committed to what they're doing. And that's the one thing that stands out when you get a sense of it after the first block. Who's invested in what they're doing here? Who's here to tick a box? You know?
100%.
And who's invested in what they're doing? And the ones who are invested in what they're doing, and Gary was a classic example of assignments, bang, top notch. No, people don't understand the importance of the assignments. The assignments, every one of the assignments that you do now, and again, it's too late for you, Gary, but we stripped them back. You know, we've stripped them back to, okay, what does the coach really need to help them work in their environment? So when you done the B license, it was very much around the 9v9 game. Okay, so let's say. Now, it was never the case at UCD, right? But when I was at Bowes, I had a quarter of a pitch. I had a squad of 20 players. And I had a quarter of a pitch in the NDSL. The National League players. So, how do I make that work? So that's the way the focus is going now, from the education department towards the coaches. Okay, what's the environment you're working in? What's your squad? And let's see, can we get the best out of you to help you to give the players the best experience that they can get. And we're moving away from the competency model towards expertise. So can you become an expert, be a licensed coach? Because you might find that's your niche. You might find, you know what, be licensed is where I want to be. I want to be an expert, be a licensed coach. Okay, so what can we do to help you to achieve that? And then and another thing that we're moving towards was that, when did you do your B license?
Me personally, I think it was 2019, just before COVID.
I think you were 18.
18?
I started mine in 19.
Well, then
Or did
18 then.
I think I
Jesus
started mine.
Christ. My God.
Unless it was early
18,
19, yeah. I
Yeah.
think I started mine late 2019 into 2020 because I
There
had
we
one
go,
block
yeah.
in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a mandatory 12-month period before you can apply for your A licensed coach. And generally, I would have never seen you from the time you finished your B license to the time when you're going to arrive on your A license. Hopefully. Anything could happen to you in terms of, you know, if you're not going back into the right environment, you can actually go backwards. So what can we do now to help you that when you come through your B license, and congratulations, you're now a B license coach, what can we now give you? Because you still need help. So what can we help you with to prepare you now for the next stage? Because it's a no-brainer from our perspective, right? The more, and I'm not afraid to say this because I firmly believe it, if we get world-class coaches, or we have world-class coaches, we'll have world-class players. And there's no reason in the world why we can't have world-class coaches. Why not?
I can't think of a reason, yeah.
But we need to give you guys all the supports that you need to get there. So as an example, now down in Cork, we were only talking about it last week. There's 4 people who have huge experience in the game in Cork. Frank Kelleher, John Cotter, Stuart Edrington. Okay. Now, Frank's not working in the game at the minute. John is a high performance coach, and Stuart works on the FOSS, the ETB courses down there. Okay. So if you're a coach from Cork now and you come through your course and you're brilliant in all the IT skills, but you need help on the pitch. Okay. So now, can we speak to John Cotter? Because John is an expert coach in terms of on the pitch. And can John link in with you into 12 months in between your B and your A?
Okay, yeah.
Based on feedback, if there is any. Do you know what I mean? To help you so that when you arrive on the A license, you're hitting the ground running. But more importantly is you're not going backwards. Because there's a lot of coaches, you know this, that they're not all working in National League clubs, and you're worried because of the environment that they're going back into. You know, if you're going back into Rovers, no problem, because you know the people are keeping an eye on things there. The same in UCD, but not for the same reasons.
I get you.
For different reasons, because everybody in UCD nearly looks out for each other, and
Very much.
don't they?
Very much. Yeah.
And it's another reason why I love the club. Like, it just, there was never any, you know, this, you know, come to watch my training session, or, you know, you could have conversations over a coffee
Very much.
around. You
Yeah,
know,
he was late at the game because he was having coffee with the 15s manager.
there you go. Fine, was it?
I was just sad I didn't get my invite.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all I was upset about.
Hey, bro, you invited you to the game.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was on the gate. I was minding the gate with your man.
On the Cork aspect there, it's like a pod. If I could have understood this incorrectly now, but the 3 individuals that you mentioned, they're not directly working for the FAI except for a guy that's in the ETB, if I'm not
Well,
mistaken.
John
will
is
be, yeah.
John is now, but you know, John's experience in terms of coaching like is huge, and the only reason I'm referencing them is because we were having a conversation around that.
Yeah.
Think about all the coaches in Dublin. There's pro licensed coaches in Dublin,
Yeah.
and they're not working in the game. Okay, so now to re-engage them, again, this goes back to the football player pathway. Okay, how can we re-engage somebody who has a pro license and has probably managed in the National League at senior level, but they're not employed? Okay, so how can we engage them? Well, what we're thinking is, well, let's engage them in helping the next generation of coaches, like
It's like a mentorship kind of model almost.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
unreal.
Yeah.
And trying to bring those coaches towards expertise as opposed to just competency and ticking a box and okay, you've done that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because even with the CPD, for example, it's obviously the content is excellent, but you're right though, it would miss that personal connection with like a mentor that really would like accelerate you to the next level, and someone that has like practical experience of what that next step is, because there's so many different things that, like, obviously you can read online about like what an A license is, especially if you're a B license coach and what you're getting into, but to really sit down and talk to somebody about the ins and outs and for them to really go through like the processes of anything, like that's just a huge advantage to anybody. Massive.
And another thing we're doing now is, so there's the 6 coach developers, so we're all sort of being aligned with 3 or 4 clubs, so that it'll be our job. So again, let's take Cork, because I know Liam. I the coach last year came through the B licence and sort of just got there. Okay, but he got there, and I had a conversation with him, and I said, look, I'm worried now. I'm not going to see you again. You're going back into a grassroots club. There's nobody there for you to bounce off. There's no A licensed coach, or there's nobody there. So, how are you going to not only stay at the level you're at, but kick on if that's what you want to do? Like, so I said, look, I need you to have a conversation. I said, would you go and speak to Liam Kearney and ask him, can you come and observe the 14s, 15s, 17s training? I said, because that'll keep you up to speed in terms of that. And in fairness to him, he did, and Liam agreed to it. So I'm now much happier knowing that he's not going back down to the arsehole of nowhere and where he has no one to bounce off. And in fairness to him, like, he was all on for it. Do you know what I mean? So it goes back to investing in it. And at the end of the day, like, if you invest in it, you'll get to where you want to get to. And even if that is grassroots, he's happy to stay in with his own club. Like, it's actually in Kerry, like,
Great.
which is brilliant. Like, and he's happy to go there. Again, those 18 coaches on the C licence at the weekend up in Monaghan. Now, they're not going to be working in the National League, but you've now 18 UEFA C licence coaches come the end of May are going back into their communities in Monaghan and Cavan, and are bringing their learnings. Like, it's a win-win.
Yeah,
100%.
It's a win-win. Like,
it's actually a big thing I've noticed in the couple of years I've been in the National League, and the thing of like asking the question, could he go in to see the Cork setup, and actually people being willing to allow that to happen. Like, the big thing I've actually noticed this year is everyone's grand with sharing footage, but you would have remembered back from the first year 13s.
Oh man,
footage. It's funny because anyone can get your footage if they really want to. But even in the last couple of years, that's changed so much.
Yeah,
where
it has,
honestly, some people would never send you footage, whereas now it seems a little bit more open and like that. People are more willing to let people in to watch sessions and all and whatnot, and that's what we need, isn't it? Sharing of knowledge is massive.
Yeah, because look, ultimately, do you know what I mean? We want our senior men's and women's team to be competing at the highest level, and we won't get there if we don't invest in our players, our infrastructure, and our coaches. You know, I think this year, in more than any other year, we now have players back playing in the Premiership in England. You know, Dara O'Shea, Evan, Nathan Collins,
Andrew
Amadelli,
Stephen Keller. There's loads, even on the top of the head.
You've boys pulling up trees in the Championship. Joe Hodge he's on fire. At QPR, Sinclair. Andy Moran at Blackburn. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the talent is there, like.
Mm-hmm.
But we need, the more we have, hopefully we'll. I distinctly remember the World Cup 1990, the quarterfinals against. Because I got married the day before, like, I cancelled my honeymoon for a week to stay home and watch that game, like. You know what I mean? Like, they're memories that are with you forever, like.
Yeah.
Remember the Euros in Portugal?
Oh man, do it what?
Yeah.
That was Robbie Brady as well.
Yeah.
What's it like seeing a player that you've coached as a kid on the TV?
And again, people ask you about define success. What does success look like?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, we'd all love to be able to say that we worked with this player. Now, again, they were in the emerging talent program for the year, whether you had any effect on them or not. But to witness, so when I was at Plymouth, you had Gavin, Nathan, Jason Knight, Andrew, and they've all gone on to do really, really well, like, and will continue to do that. Like, that's huge satisfaction. Huge satisfaction to see that the players that and Andrew wasn't, Evan was the number one.
Great, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Gavin was the number one. Nathan was the number one. Andrew wasn't. Andrew had to work hard to get to where he needed to get to. Barrett O'Shea the same, like.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
But it's just testament to them. But that's the great satisfaction. Match of the day on Saturday night, or even a game live. And I watched the game last week, Celtic v Motherwell. You had Liam Scales, Adam Eda playing for Celtic, Dan Casey, and Shane Blaney. Is he?
Yeah, that rings about me.
Was with Sligo.
Yeah.
He scored the world in a free kick against them in a thing.
There you go. Two of them playing for Motherwell.
Yeah.
Then the week later, Dan Casey gets the winner against Rangers, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like,
big time.
Brilliant.
100%.
Brilliant, like.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, people always, like, Dan obviously wouldn't be playing internationally at this stage, but at the same breath, like, that is a success story. And even Liam Scales obviously is probably getting the credit he deserves now, but, I don't think people obviously see Liam Scales as Celtic, but they don't see him, as a 21-year-old going from UCD to Rovers, having to bleed in there because he wasn't a success at Rovers for the first couple of months, took him a while to bleed in, and again, he got his dreamland a couple of years later than expected,
Absolutely. But again, going back to UCD, look, the quality of player that's come out of UCD over the years, like.
Yeah, the data is very clear.
Ronan Finn, Liam Scales, Neil Ferrugia, Gary O'Neill, like, the talent, like.
Yeah, they're definitely doing something right. Like, there's no doubt about that. And it'd be interesting to see now, in the next couple of years, now that there's been like full progressions from 13s to first team, I think now you're kind of starting to see the 06s and 05s and stuff bleed into the. But I think the 06 is the first crop, isn't it? From 13s all the way up. So it'll be interesting to see them, the 07s, the 08s, and how better will they be at 18 overall versus what like the 99s will be, which is Morgan's age. Be interesting, We'll have to wait and see. But look, I know you've got a flight in the morning, so I think we'll call it a night there. But really appreciate your time. And
no problem.
I thought there was some amazing insights there. Things that I didn't know, that, as you said, you think you know it all until someone else says something else.
Listen, and again, I'm listening to Tom O'Connor at the weekend, and he blows my mind. Like,
yeah.
Unfortunately, Noel's not with us anymore, but. Listen, thanks. I really enjoyed this.
Good.
Great to chat football without having an assessment sheet beside me.
100%. 100%.
Get Tom O'Connor on to be some stories, wouldn't there?
Oh, Tom, you what.
Yeah.
Get him out.
Yeah. I tell you, you'd have to get him to sing a song as well. Like, in fact, he'd probably demand it.
I'll bring a guitar.
Yeah.
Thanks, JJ.
No problem.
Oh, that was great, man.